Today, I'm sharing an example of a 500-word statement of purpose, which many of you have been asking me for. And what's incredible about this example is that it's the same person who wrote the Harvard Graduate School of Education application. That's a different video, which you should go check out on my channel. And I want you to notice the difference between when you have a 1,500-word SOP and a 500-word SOP. Same person, same life story, but you have to be a lot more concise in 500 words to really get your point across. You can also download the PDF of this SOP and the longer SOP example when you sign up for my newsletter below. And if you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. Let's dive in. Working as a college advisor solidified my commitment to the transformative power of higher education. My first year serving at Garden Grove High School, I was the sole college access resource on a campus of over 2,000 students at one of the only Title I schools in the district. The majority of my students were from low income and recently immigrated families. I asked to be placed in the city I grew up in, as my peers and I did not have access to a resource like this at our high school. I want to point out something really amazing that's happening right at the beginning of this essay. There's no time to, tell your whole life story, but you can drop in little nuggets of who you are and what you care about right up front. So you'll notice this person doesn't spend time going into their whole life story like they do in the 1,500-word example. They jump in straight to their experiences. And what I love is this sentence right here where it says, I asked to be placed in the city I grew up in, as my peers and I did not have access to a resource like this. And what that's telling me in this very, very concise space is that this person comes from, a community that's low income, a lot of people of color, because they previously mentioned that it's a Title I school, which that tells me, it's a low income school district, and that they care about giving back to their community. And I get that in a very small amount of space. And if you look at the 1,500-word example, you can see that there's a very drawn out story about where the person comes from and being in a single parent household. And you don't need all of that when you have 500 words. You just want to drop little nuggets and hints. All right, so let's continue. I managed to actively support more than 90% of the senior class of 600 students in applying to at least one college and completing a financial aid application, the highest percentage for the school in the last 5 years. This was possible because I created networks of support for students starting from their freshman year to change the school's culture. While working in collaboration with school counselors and administrators, I balanced classroom presentations, one-on-one advising, and advocated for students to ensure they were given holistic support in their post-secondary pathways. In addition, I trained and supervised a small group of college-age mentors from local universities to help support my work during the busiest times of college application and financial aid season. This is a really great intro paragraph, and you can see that the person is diving in to talking about their experience. It's a lot more like a cover letter than, a longer SOP, where there isn't space for all this kind of setup, which is normally what I see in intros in, longer SOPs, where people are like, when I was a kid, this happened to me and I had this experience. And I talk a lot about doing storytelling in your essays. When you have 500 words, there's no space for that. You just have to jump to factual things about yourself that are highlighting and elevating your credibility. And this sentence right here, they also have it in their longer 1,500-word SOP, is such an amazing one because it tells me so much about the person and their success, where they say, I supported 90% of the senior class of 600 students in applying to college, and that this was the highest percentage for the school in the last 5 years. That is an excellent fact, something I call a humble brag, where in one sentence I can tell this person is someone who is dedicated, who's committed, who I don't know all the details of how they got there, but they're someone who is skilled if they were able to achieve this result. So you want to focus on outcomes and less on the details of how you got there when you have a small space like 500 words. After just 4 months serving with the College Advising Corps, I was selected as the Research and Evaluation Fellow. I was charged with bringing the organization's national research and data collection practices back to my host corps at USC, where I developed intake and retrospective surveys for our 39 partner schools. Through this process, I was trained in large-scale data evaluation techniques using statistical analysis and Excel pivot tables. I was selected out of 800 advisors to give a presentation to share my firsthand experience serving large student populations at our CAC National Conference. Again, this is an excellent paragraph because it's giving me the highlights of the outcomes of what this person achieved. So they were selected as a research fellow. That shows me that that's an accomplishment. They told us what they did and the skills they gained doing that process of, using statistical analysis, all that kind of stuff. And then they end again with a really great humble brag, which is that they were selected out of 800 advisors to give a presentation. So that tells me a lot about this person in a very small amount of space. Even with all my work to get students to college, the idea of sending them off to universities where they will continue to face the very same barriers they narrowly overcame in high school pushes me to strive for more. After 3 months, I have seen some of my top students return to attend community colleges, and although I hope for the opposite, I expect to see more back home by the end of the academic year. This is the devastating reality that has led me to focus on retention and persistence of students from historically disadvantaged communities as my source of motivation for pursuing a master's degree in student affairs at UCLA. In this paragraph, the person very briefly tells the reader what they truly care about, why they're in this work. And it's a really powerful statement in just a small paragraph. And if you look at the example of the 1,500 words, they go into a lot more detail on what these barriers are and how they got there and all that kind of stuff. But here, it's just a highlight reel. And you really want to make your point come across as concisely as possible. But even in a few sentences, we get what this person cares about. I want my education to be centered in praxis while maintaining a foundation in research and innovation in the field. The UCLA Masters in Student Affairs program, with its focus on developing scholar practitioners, is the perfect environment for me to do this. After developing my skills further in the MSA program, I hope to work in a university-run retention program for underrepresented students and eventually pursue an education-based doctorate. This is a simple, basic conclusion that brings it back to why UCLA. When we have longer SOPs, we generally have some flowery language and we want to end it on a beautiful note. But when you have 500 words, you just have to get to the point. And here we quickly learn, why UCLA is the right next step for this person. And then we get a brief little highlight in the last sentence of the person's future career trajectory and how the master's program is just one step on the type of job they want to have, and then later going to pursue a PhD. So you don't need a lot here to get the job done. And I just want to recap some of the things that are in here that you want to make sure any SOP has, which we see a lot of the person's experiences and credibility based on what they've done in the past and the outcomes they've achieved in working in this area. We also get some insights into just what they care about, the type of communities and populations they want to serve that are very specific. They're not talking about all college students everywhere, but wanting to work with a certain population. And then we hear a little bit about their future plans and how UCLA is the right next step for them for that future career that they want to have. So even when you only have 500 words, you want to make sure you get in all those things. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. I'm going on maternity leave, but if you're signed up for my newsletter, you'll get updates about when I have new resources and when my office hours resume later this year.